Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. I like that smile. Keep it. How are you this morning?
I'm good.
Great.
Fine.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning. How's it going?
I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Good.
Perfect. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending with reactions trailing comments made by the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who on Monday said that he will not be campaigning for Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, because Atiku picked people from Rivers as members of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council without any input from him. The governor made the comment during the inauguration of the Rivers PDP Campaign Council in Port Harcourt. Well, let's take a listen before we take some reactions.
Why is it that they don't see the presidential candidate's picture, the party chairman? I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The presidential candidate entered my state and picked members of the presidential council without the whole governor of the state having a contribution. The presidential candidate entered Rivers State, picked those he wants to pick without the contribution of the governor. So they said they don't need me to campaign for them. But you don't want the last people to campaign for them. Will you force yourself? No. Will you force yourself? No. If somebody says he doesn't want to, will you go and push yourself? No. You sit down and do the what you can do. And that is the end of it. I have never seen how people would disrespect a state like Rivers State and go and choose those who are enemies of the state. Enemies of the state. Without the contribution of we. So that is what they did. And so most of you may not even know, you may not even understand who is our nominee in the campaign council they have. Do we have anyone? So they don't want us to campaign. So let's campaign for those who have told us to campaign for them. The governorship candidate, the senatorial candidate, they told us to campaign for them. And so we are here to campaign for them.
Let's take some reactions. This is from Eid Malam, who wrote, Buhari won the 2015 and 2019 elections without the votes of Rivers State, the votes of the entire South-South and Southeast. So what prevents Atiku from winning the presidency without just the Rivers State votes? Wike is deeply involved in a suicidal mission, and he knows he can't win. Well, Fidelis wrote, why is Wike now crying that Atiku didn't inform him before he chose his Rivers campaign nominees? Why will he consult you when you are behaving as if they collected your biscuits? So the Rivers nominee in the PCC are your enemies because they are with Atiku? This man. Well, Ogwagu wrote, kindly disregard the recent rant of Nyesom Wike. Atiku wrote to every state and PDP governors to submit names for the party's PCC. Wike was the only one who refused to submit names. A campaign team was formed. Wike and his team pulled out of the campaign. He's not saying the truth. I guess Ogwagu is echoing a group called the People's Democratic Stakeholders as well, who also confirmed this claim, saying that, Wike is lying and that Atiku had reached out, but he didn't respond. I guess, this is just a pure indication that Wike is definitely rejecting Atiku at this point. Dr. Abati.
Well, this is a clear indication that the crisis within the People's Democratic Party, the disagreement between Governor Nyesom Wike and 4 other governors, with the party has not been resolved. And clearly here, the governor is saying, they came to his state and picked enemies. Whose enemies, really? Because the word enemies, that would seem to be a very strong word. But we all recall that before now, Governor Wike and his own allies had said the irreducible minimum would be for the chairman of the party to stand down. And the party decided to back the chairman of the party and said, look, the best that will happen will be for him to leave after the election. And clearly Governor Wike, does not agree. And hence he has now made it clear that he will not campaign for the presidential candidate of the party, but he will campaign for others, but not the presidential candidate. And hence the campaign vehicles that are on the streets of Port Harcourt now, the papers report that Atiku's pictures are not on those campaign vehicles. However, Governor Wike is not the only member of the PDP in Rivers State. There are others, like Professor Secondus, who is a member of the Presidential Campaign Council. There are others, like Senator Lee Meba. There are others, like Celestine Omehia, who are on the side of the presidential candidate of the PDP. Maybe we'll now have, for the presidential campaign, those other stakeholders in Rivers State organizing their own campaign. Okay, so at the end of the day, it may not really be, a big problem for the party, because the party has the machinery to organize, a presidential campaign in Rivers if it comes to that. And we also imagine that if Atiku Abubakar, and other supporters go to Port Harcourt to have a rally, that Governor Wike will not have any issues with that. However, we had Kola Alogbodunyo on this program, and he said it wasn't the presidential candidate that chose those members of the Presidential Campaign Council, that it was actually done by the National Organizing Secretary, who asked PDP governors and the various states to send in the names of their nominees. But you recall that even at that time, Governor Wike and some of his supporters had said they will not have a hand in the campaign, except the irreducible minimum they asked for was done. And their position was that it was, for them, a question of equity and justice. But hopefully, dialogue, will continue within the party, and there is a window of about 5-6 months. Maybe before then, there will be some resolution, and Governor Wike and his allies may then have a change of mind.
Absolutely. Rufai, your comment on this
one thing is certain, Governor Wike is not speaking totally the way it's happening. He was the one that said, I don't want to be part of this. He's the one that's been fighting with his party for a while. He's the one taking all the decisions in the world. He's the one, anyways, an illegality before, revoking the decision he took on Celestine Omehia, who he said was former governor and was paying all the monies entitled to former governors before he revoked it with the State House now, because that one was supporting Atiku Abubakar. So if Atiku Abubakar decides to pick other people in the state and continue, and you see, Governor Wike must understand something, that nature abhors a vacuum. With or without him, the PDP will go on with their campaign. So why is he crying spilled milk that they will not support? He has not supported them before, and it's crystal clear. All the talks they've held with him has not come through. So we know he's on his own. But also, please, if they will come and do their rally in the states, they should also be given the chance to do their rally. They should not say, because I'm the incumbent governor, I can do this and I can do it, I can show my might. And I think one lesson we should learn from this Governor Wike debacle is the fact that, when you fight, you must have a termination date to your fight, or else your fight becomes irrelevant.
That is it.
So Governor Wike, as it is, has lost relevance. You can see that nobody hears him again. Maybe when he calls his media pally again, to still whip up media. But people will just listen to him till before the elections.
Yeah.
As he speaks today, people have moved off him. And he has lost the oomph in the fight.
Yeah.
Because nobody really cares about him any longer.
Because he keeps talking about Rivers State.
Yeah.
My first Twitter user alluded to the fact that Buhari won without Rivers State.
And the funny thing is, the campaign has moved on without him. They've had the first mass rally. They've had the second mass rally without him. So you should just remember the words of Taisholari, that if you think you're indispensable, dip a stick in a bucket of water, the little hollow form will show you what people feel about you. What's the worst case scenario? They will lose the election with or without. Is it the end of the world? So he has taken this fight too long, and it has become his albatross. And I fear for his political career in the future. I think lessons have to be learned.
I won't say that he has lost the relevance. I mean, after all, he just appointed some 10,000.
No, 50,000, not
50,000.
10,000. You are being cheeky.
10,000.
You are being very cheeky.
So, to such persons, he's still relevant. Because,
Dr. Party. All right. We shall take another story. The spokesman of the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, on Monday tackled the publisher of Ovation magazine, Dele Momodu, who in a statement on Sunday described the recently released APC Manifesto as an appropriation of the late MKO Abiola's legacy. Or the 80-page manifesto tagged Renewed Hope 2023, which was unveiled on Friday, has generated mixed reactions from a cross-section of Nigerians. While responding to Dele Momodu's claim, Keyamo said that the publisher, in his critique of the manifesto, could not show evidence of copy and paste, and that he should stick to praise singing instead of critiquing policy statements. Where Keyamo went further to state that Dele Momodu had previously endorsed Tinubu in a 2019 article published in This Day newspaper entitled Bola Tinubu and His Date with Destiny in 2023, where Momodu had alluded to the fact that Tinubu will definitely perform as president of Nigeria if he ever contests and wins. Your Egbon, is it Egbon? I call him Dele Momodu and Festus Keyamo in this type of, rancor. But I mean, a lot of people have said the same thing about Tinubu's campaign and his, obvious manifesto, whether or not is, like the MKO Abiola manifesto remains to be revealed. Dr. Abati.
Well, okay. Dele Momodu is spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party. Festus Keyamo is spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress, right? So you don't expect that the two of them, while they are campaigning, will say the same thing, or they would, see things from the same perspective. So this is a political season when it is natural for you to demarcate the other person, to give advantage to your own person that you are promoting. That's precisely what has happened here. And we have two different views. Dele Momodu issued a statement saying that, look, there's nothing original in the APC manifesto. Okay, did you expect him to help APC sell their own manifesto? No, he's not likely to do that. And do you expect Festus Keyamo to be happy that an 80-page document has just been, trashed like that by the spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party? And in that statement by Dele Momodu, he was simply saying, okay, you said Hope 93. It was Hope 93 in 1993. Now you say Renewed Hope 2023, right? That's not original. Why don't you just look for your own title? You are renewing someone else's legacy when you can run, on your own steam, basically. But look at what Keyamo has now done. He has gone to exhume an article that Dele Momodu wrote in 2019, Okay, Dele Momodu is very well known as a public commentator. Is it possible that public commentators have the right to change their mind? If in 2019, you felt this particular way and you wrote an article, 2-3 years down the line, you may say, no, I don't think so anymore because the circumstances have changed and I think I prefer this other person. After all, Dele Momodu himself was at a time in the Labour Party. Then, in that 2019 election, he still supported some other candidate. And this time around, he himself ran as a presidential aspirant. And he decided to work for his party. I don't see where there should be a problem here. But the language that is used by politicians these days, the rhetoric is so vitriolic.
Yes.
So we can only argue or plead that, look, they should tone down the rhetoric. Mm-hmm. We should have more in terms of you selling your candidate and analyzing what your candidate wants, rather than engaging with Nigerians and creating this kind of situation where you and I are sitting down and saying, oh, Dele Momodu said this, Festus Keyamo said that. And I hope in Festus Keyamo's case, I'm not taking sides, so I hope he's managing his time well.
Yeah.
Because he's still a minister. He's still
that
a serving
is another
minister.
topic people talk about.
Rufai. You see, both political parties are playing what they call politics. What is politics? Backstabbing, lies, and all of that. And don't take two of them seriously. If I read Dele Momodu is seated there and Festus Keyamo walks in the road, he will still call him Egbon and they will shake like nothing happened. So if we die in their war,
absolutely,
then we are deceived. I think what concerns me is the war of the Nigerian people. The fact that the things Chief MKO Abiola talked about in the Hope 93 manifesto have gotten worse. What were the things Chief MKO Abiola was talking about? Farewell to poverty. Today, it is bienvenue poverty in Nigeria. Welcome to poverty. He was trying to do farewell to poverty. Today, it is welcome to poverty. Close to half of the population live in abject poverty. All the resource we have can't work for the people. High maternal mortality number. High child under 5 deaths in Nigeria. No pipe-borne water. Oji, the fact that 19 million out of the over 200 million people are those that have access to pipe-borne water in Nigeria. So only 10% of the population have access to pipe-borne water. Oji, you live in a highbrow area. I put it to you. It's borehole you take. You have never seen government pipe-borne water come to your house. But that's not the case before. I had a friend that built his house in 1992 in Ikeja. Was telling me that as in 1992 in Ikeja, as he built his house, there was pipe-borne water that came in. Over the years, the pipe-borne water stopped working. Now it's borehole. So those that even live in highbrow area don't have pipe-borne water. Nigeria, open defecation still happens. Terrible sanitary conditions. Those were all the things MKO Abiola talked about, you know, in that Hope 93 jingle, when he was saying MKO na the man. All those parameters remain the same.
Absolutely.
That's what we should be sad about and be trying to fix. That if you were to do a timestamp of the economic situation in Nigeria, you would see that it has gotten worse in the space of 30 years. So isn't it for the time for us to start looking beyond and say, what legacies, what kind of economy are we going to leave behind for the next 30 years for the Nigerian child? But the truth is they are not thinking about that, because let me tell you what will happen in the next 40 years, Oji, real quickly. They have left debt already for Nigerians to pay in the next 40 years. The 20 trillion ways and means, they have securitized it in a debt to be paid in the next 40 years. So a child born today in Nigeria has debt waiting for him.
It's really sad. We'll take another story. There are mixed reactions trailing the video showing the wife of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Remi Tinubu, and Nana Shettima, wife of Kashim Shettima, the vice presidential candidate of the APC, disembarking from a Nigerian Air Force aircraft to commiserate with flood victims in Benue State. The video is coming after calls for presidential candidates to donate and support flood victims across the country. Remi Tinubu and Nana Shettima were accompanied by other APC women aboard the NAF aircraft, while some Nigerians commenting on the video have raised questions as to why campaigners for presidential candidates are permitted to use the national aircraft for political purposes. Well, let's take this tweet from Dozier, who wrote, "Taxpayers deserve to know when, where, and how much it costs when it comes to the use of NAF aircraft for political purposes. There is no responsible country in the world that will allow the use of national aircraft to fly the wives of presidential candidates. If they do, the campaign organization need to pay for such services. Anything short of that will amount to the waste of taxpayers' money." Thank you. Dr. Bati, over to you.
Okay,
I'd like for you to answer Dozier's question, if possible.
Well, the questions that have been raised are relevant. After only last week or so, the Home Secretary in the UK had to resign. She left the government. She said, she had made the mistake of, sending official matters using a private email. So that's the kind of standard that you have in some other jurisdictions. But do we know what the facts are in this particular case? Because the Nigerian Air Force here has a fleet. It also manages the presidential fleet. Now, people can hire planes from, the Nigerian Air Force, but did they pay for it? Sometimes some presidents of some other African countries will appeal to Nigeria that they would like to use, Nigerian aircraft or a plane from the air fleet. And then, of course, they'll pay a fee for it. Okay? So I know that there is such an arrangement. So in this particular case, did they pay? If they did not pay for the use of that aircraft, then, of course, those who are outraged, will have a very strong point to make. That is the thing. And then secondly, will the wives of other presidential candidates, should they also want to use a Nigerian Air Force plane and pay for it? The emphasis is on payment. Would they also enjoy that access?
So the other question also is, are they allowed to use it for, even if they had to pay for it, is it right for them to use it for political campaigns? Because it would appear to a lot of people that some of these presidential candidates are going out, to also campaign by donating.
I mean, it looks tacky. Yeah, I get the argument Dr. Abati make and the explanation about, paying for it, but it looks tacky. And I think if we have to be fair, we have to be fair across board. And let me extend that argument you made. The wives of how many presidential candidates, over 10 or we have, 18 we have, they too should be able to have access to NAF. But I don't see why, whoever it is, if it's not the president, they should be using the presidential fleets. This was the same presidential fleet President Buhari campaign that we're going to reduce the cost and everything for. And the thing still bears a lot of costs. It is the presidential fleet for the president alone, not add-ons. There are many private jet leasing companies in Nigeria.
That's another.
I have many of them at the top. But if you want, why can't you go and lease from there? Let's leave it for and if this is how we want to be running, then we should cut the size of the presidential fleets. And it's so sad at a time like this, petrol queues are resurfacing in Lagos, and we are talking about things like this.
Well, all right.
Well, the thing to say is that the armed forces should be non-partisan.
Yes, that's the question.
So that's the part of it. That's the reason for the outrage. It should be a non-partisan
Very good point.
institution.
We shall take our final story with this video posted on Twitter by Festus Keyamo showing hundreds of APC women in Kano State singing for the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who in turn bust out a move in celebration with the women. Let's take a look. I like this video, Rufai. I mean, I also like the move.
Is that shocking?
It is shocking. That's what it's called. I know you would know that. Well, all right. I love the diversity as well. The Kano women dancing for Tinubu. I thought it was a beautiful video to see. Well, thank you both for your great analysis as always.
Thank you, Aji, as always.
That's all I have for you on what's trending today. I'll see you tomorrow.